everybody, welcome back to my channel, The Francophile Reader. So today I am answering your questions, or in this case, question. I received one question from Lukash at Totally Pretentious, and I think it's a question that warrants an entire video. And so here is his question. Congratulations, much deserved. Thank you. What helped you decide what to pursue in your studies? I mean that both generally. Why did you pick French medieval studies over biology? And specifically, how did you decide what you want to do research on? Okay, so I think this is a really good question. If you don't know, if you haven't been following my channel for very long, you might not know this. I did biology and French as an undergrad. And actually, I did 1 year of a PhD in entomology before quitting, completely changing paths, doing a master's in French, and then continuing on. And now I'm currently a PhD student in French literature. My research is mostly on the second half of the 16th century, the Renaissance, but when I started out, I thought I would be more of a medievalist. Hence the reason why the old name for my channel was The Medieval Reader and not The Francophile Reader. So I always liked biology because biology is the study of life, and I've always been interested in understanding how the world works, how life works, and entomology, which is the study of insects, was something I wanted to do since I was 9. I always liked insects. I found them really fascinating. They are really important. Entomologists work in a number of different sectors: medicine, agriculture, golf courses, pest control. There's just a wide range of sectors that employ entomologists. And so actually, as it turns out, you can get a good job in entomology. When I was a child, my parents used to always laugh at me when I said I want to be an entomologist, because they'd be like, well, you're going to be really broke. Of course, now I'm doing French, so I will really be broke. And so yeah, I did biology because I found the topic very interesting. I was never particularly good at science. I always struggled on my tests. I always struggled in the lab particularly. I could never really do anything with my hands. So it was a topic that I really enjoyed studying, despite the fact that I wasn't particularly good at it. This became an issue as the years went on, but I got a bachelor's degree in biology with a decent GPA. But when it came to doing the PhD, I just wasn't good. I couldn't do anything in the lab. And frankly, I just wasn't interested. I found myself in the research library studying something very, very different. Reading letters, reading treatises, focusing on the kinds of research that I am still doing today. So I was really interested in the humanities and in my own personal research interests, rather than working in the lab. Now, I worked with honeybees and I was interested in toxicology because I was thinking, okay, I'll work for a biotech company like Dow Chemical or Bayer or Monsanto. Now, I know some of you are not a fan of biotechnology. I could make an entire video about how genetically modified crops are safe for humans, but that's not what this channel is about, so maybe not. But suffice it to say that I had no issues with biotechnology, and I thought it would be a really interesting sector to work in. Certainly that there would be jobs. Despite the fact that I can't work in a lab, and yeah, it just wasn't for me, and I just wasn't really into it. So after a year, when I was given the opportunity to change universities, change programs entirely, I took it. I went back to my undergrad institution, got a master's in French, and then now I'm at the University of Pennsylvania where I'm doing my PhD in French. Now, my research has moved a little bit because, as I said, I used to be a medievalist and I was really interested in saints and looking at saints' lives, but now I am more interested in the second half of the 16th century, the French Wars of Religion, and particularly focusing on Protestant martyrologies. So there is some similarity. I'm still looking at religious rhetoric. I'm still looking at performance and, religious performance. I'm still interested in rhetoric, but there are some differences. I haven't entirely chosen my corpus yet, but I do have a field. In the next few months, I will be able to narrow it down and figure out what my corpus will be on which I will work for my dissertation, or thesis, for all of you outside of the United States, thesis. I think my video is also important for any of you who are doing something that you don't particularly like and you think that you're in too deep. you can always change. And when I changed doing a master's in French, I received a stipend just as I was when I was doing my PhD. Now, not as much, but enough that I could live on. And it worked out because I was teaching French to first, second year students, and it was extremely rewarding, and I really got to think about what I wanted to do before then doing a PhD. If you are in the United States in particular, you can always change programs. There's a lot of freedom there, and don't feel like you have to continue down this path that you are just not cut out for. And I just absolutely was not cut out for scientific research. Now, I still like science. I still watch nature shows. It's almost exclusively what I watch on television. I still read science books written by scientists. My current interest is actually in the conservation of North American wildlife, wolves in particular, but not exclusively so. Conservation is really interesting. It's not exactly what you would expect. I think if you're like a vegetarian or a vegan and you're about protecting all animals, that's not exactly what conservation is. Conservation does include things that vegetarians wouldn't particularly like, but I think it opens up the conversation to thinking about how scientists actually deal with conservation versus maybe what people in the popular culture think is conservation. Someday I will make a video about the books I've read that I've liked the most in this field, but I just want to recommend one right now, American Wolf by Nate Blakesley. I wrote an entire blog post about it, I'll link it below. But yeah, I was always very interested in the philosophical questions that were associated with the study of biology. Questions like, what is a species? How do we determine what is a species? Or what are the limitations of the instruments we use? These sort of questions. So I was interested in the philosophy of science, but doing experimentation actually was never really my interest. How I chose French is something I was passionate about. I was passionate about while I was supposed to be doing science, and now I get to do this thing, and I am so grateful for the opportunity, and I love what I do. So thank you, Lukash, for asking this question. And if any of you have other questions for me, just comment down below. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.